Honorable, distinguished guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon. Selamat siang in bahasa. For colleagues from ADB, magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. I still remember that. So it is a great pleasure for me to join all of you here at the Southeast Asian Development Symposium. Allow me first to convey my gratitude to the Asian Development Bank as the host of this event. This afternoon, I have been asked to share my thought on how we can reimagine a net zero Southeast Asia, taking the examples of Indonesia's new capital city, Nusantara. To do so, let me start by taking stock of the operating environment that shapes the world we live in today. And there is nothing more fitting than the latest report that was released 10 days ago by the UN IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. In summary, the report alerts us that there is now 50% likelihood the world will pass 1.5 degrees Celsius threshold in global warming, and called for the world for urgent actions. The report also alerts us on the increased frequency and impact of droughts, tornadoes, and other extreme and urged countries to prioritize adaptation measures to mitigate the most serious effects. In response to this, the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres declared that 2040 as the new 2050 and proposed for countries to urgently target the achievement of net zero by 2040 or even as early as 2035. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, at the backdrop of this latest report is an ongoing trend that will continue to have long-lasting impact on the global effort to promote social and economic development, including to achieve carbon neutrality, urbanizations. Several studies, including made by the ADB, suggest that mid-21st century, more than 60% of all people will live in cities. In Asia alone, around 120,000 people every day migrate to cities. In other words, Asia's future is urban. This massive migration to cities will require extensive infrastructure, robust public services, and improvement in urban and rural connectivity. But not only that, we should also think about ways such demand may degrade the environment and increase the likelihood of disasters in urban areas. Meanwhile, the same IPCC report I cited earlier affirms that climate change risks to cities will rise sharply with further global warming, especially in places that are already exposed to high temperatures along coastlines or with high vulnerabilities. As such, it is important to develop cities that are not only resilient against disaster and climate shocks, but also able to contribute to our pursuit of lower carbon pathway and maintain economic growth. IPCC also affirms that cities and settlements play an important role in advancing climate resilient development due to high number of people living in the area and their vital role in national economies and beyond. Already, some cities in Asia are pursuing smart and inclusive planning that includes sustainable transport, sustainable energy, and city resilience that will create more livable cities in the future. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, now allow me to share with you about the development of Indonesia's new capital city, Nusantara, and how it may be relevant to our discussion today. To give some perspective, as you see on the map, let me share some basic numbers on Nusantara. The total area of Nusantara includes a land area of more than 256,000 hectares. This is 4 times larger than Jakarta and 3.5 times larger than Singapore. Out of this, only 25%, a quarter of this, or about 56,000 hectares, will be developed as a green built-up urban areas. This includes an area of around 6,600 hectares that is designated as the government core area. This bold task of creating a new capital city is not a standalone project, but a critical component of a bigger journey toward achieving the vision of Indonesia 2045. The visions aim to create inclusive and more equal economic growth in Indonesia as a requirement for the country to be a high-income country. The development of new city in the middle of Indonesia is expected to be the catalyst for greater economic distribution, particularly in the eastern part of Indonesia, and this in turn will boost the country's economic and social growth. Beyond that, the development of Nusantara reflects Indonesia's determinations to make a tangible contribution to 3 global campaigns. First, Nusantara wants to be part of global agenda in conserving biodiversity by rejuvenating enriched flora and fauna in Kalimantan. This is made possible by the development of Nusantara as a sustainable forest city, which I discuss in more detail shortly. Among other things, we are currently working with international organizations to develop a biodiversity baseline and conservation strategy, which will guide us throughout the city development process. Secondly, we want to join the global movement in aligning the city development with the SDG, or Sustainable Development Goal. To track and report on the SDG progress in Nusantara, we will conduct a voluntary local review, or VLR, led by a chief SDG in my office. With this, Nusantara will be the first city in Indonesia that conduct a systematic tracking and review of SDGs. The third and last point, which I believe is the most relevant for this distinguished forum, is our effort to play an active role in the global campaign against the climate change, including developing Nusantara as Indonesia's first city to achieve net zero. As a new capital, Nusantara has 5 principles of a modern city, namely green, smart, inclusive, resilient, and also sustainable. These 5 principles will allow Nusantara to be both nature-friendly and people-centered by offering excellent access and quality of urban services for its residents to work and live alongside with nature. The 5 principles of Nusantara, and then we elaborate into the city's design elements so that eventually the city will become a smart and sustainable forest city. The forest in the city relates to the fact that 65% of the land area will be transformed from production forest now into a tropical forest. The creation of the tropical forest is done through what we call the reforestation process to rejuvenate and preserve the ecology. The forest area also provides the city with nature-based solutions, as it will increase water absorption, reduce the risk of flooding, and act as a carbon sink. Nusantara is also designed as a smart city where we will focus on the use of technology not only to enhance quality of living, but also to control the green urban environment. This includes an integrated system to ensure efficient use of water and electricity, utilizing clean energy sources, and the use of modern transport modes through intelligent transport system with minimal or zero emissions. In other words, the smart feature of Nusantara will contribute to the formation of a high-quality and regenerative built environment that is modeled after a circular economy and has an overall positive impact on the environment. In conclusion, Nusantara Tropical Forest Area, combined with the highly controlled built-up green areas, will lead to minimal emissions in the city. With all these features, Nusantara aims to be a carbon-neutral city by 2045. This is ahead of Indonesia's national net zero target. Colleagues and ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy also to share that in the last year COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, Nusantara National Capital Authority and the ADB launched a scoping study that maps Nusantara net zero pathway. The study affirms that Nusantara development as a sustainable forest city will foster more ambitious rehabilitation efforts in its area. Our current plan will contribute to Indonesian NDC, nationally determined contributions, in line with the Paris Agreement, and it is worth noting that the study is the first comprehensive assessment of locally determined contributions. We are going to have a LDC. In addition to NDC of Indonesia, this is going to be LDC for Nusantara at the city level in Indonesia. So, at this juncture, allow me to express my gratitude and also appreciations for the continued strong support that we receive from national and international organizations, including the Asian Development Bank. By partnering with this reputable institution, Nusantara can quickly gain international best practices, exchange knowledge, and allocate resources more effectively to achieve our net zero goal. At the same time, we welcome these partners to make Nusantara as a living lab, living laboratory, where they will work together to generate new knowledge and also explore different kinds of opportunities on creating a new way of living, working, and learning in Nusantara. Honorable distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to end my speech by inviting you to take part in this historic knowledge journey. Let me note that Nusantara is not your usual city building project. It is a major endeavor to create a model city that is green, smart, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable, a model that can be replicated by other new and existing cities around the globe and allow us to transition to net zero, achieve climate resilience, and ensure economic prosperity for all. I wish you a fruitful discussion and a pleasant stay in Bali. Thank you and terima kasih.